Take 5. Hey everybody, I am Daddy Sam and you are tuned in to A Touch of Gay podcast episode 69. Woo! That's a powerful number, and so we're going to be talking about that today, channeling the energy of that big number 69. Long Beach is going to build a new LGBTQ plus cultural district along the Broadway Strip out in California. And we're also going to be covering what's coming up for Palm Springs Pride and a couple of other things. The Touch of Gay podcast is my weekly sit down with you where I share with you what's going on at my kitchen table as well as the kitchen table of the LGBTQ plus fishbowl that I find myself in with a little bit of a leather scent and a visual if you're watching this on YouTube. And I always like to start with our daily inspiration, which comes directly from our social media, which is A Touch of Gay Pod. That's our handle on Facebook, Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We do not do the X. We just don't go there. And today's daily inspiration is simply this. At some point, it stops being about how you were raised and starts being about how you choose to live. Now, this comes from a couple different directions. Growing up and still out in the world these days, I hear somebody carp out that same old tune, well, the way I was raised, and it usually finishes with some kind of bigoted thing or some kind of old backwards thought or backwards idea. There's the other thing where we were just, every one of us, we were brought up by parents who put into us ideals, they put into us fears, they put into us expectations of what we were going to be and how we were going to live that still live with many of us today. Sometimes that's good, sometimes not so good. It depends on whether we grew up in a fairy tale or whether we grew up in a horror show. Then enter the church, enter society, enter school. Everywhere we grew up and everywhere we've lived, even in adult life, has shaped the expectation that many of ourselves have taken on, and that becomes part of how you were raised, how I was raised in my career, how I was raised in my education, and so on. At some point, our life starts to become about what we choose, what we want. If we're lucky, if we want to be free, if we want to be happy, at some point we have to stop living for other people. And that's not to say we don't live to serve other people in our community and be of service and be kind and be a good member of society. But there comes a point in time when it's a turning point in our lives when we start realizing that we need to let go of some of those things that we were programmed with because they don't always fit. Sometimes they were just blatantly wrong. I was brought up in sort of a blue collar, I don't want to say redneck, but kind of redneck family setting where there were a lot of old ideas about race, politics, society in general, and just the way things ought to be. I identified with that when I was younger and I tried to adopt that. It just never felt right to me. Every time I would hear somebody say those things, I would go, really? Or I'd question it. Well, obviously, in my adult life, I've come around to adopt a lot of my own ideals, the things that feel good in my heart, the things that I enjoy doing, the things that I enjoy identifying with, and that's made me a happier, freer soul. And most of the people I know who are happy, free souls have shed a lot of baggage. And that's not always easy. I still find myself thinking in my head when I'm talking to myself about what would my mother think? What would my father think? They would be proud. Would they be proud? Would my friend that I idolized when I was growing up, what would he do? What would he like me to say or think or do? There's always still those voices that I don't necessarily listen to them anymore. Sometimes I think this is what they would think or that's what they would think, and I don't necessarily agree. I just kind of go, yeah, that's exactly what they would think, but that's not who I am today. So that's our daily inspiration. At some point, it stops being about how you were raised and starts being about how you choose to live. So choose to live. Choose to live, my friends. So my check-in, Christmas in July. I hate that term so much. Every time I hear it, I'm thinking, what kind of rhubarb are they going to feed me now? But for me, I've been looking at, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I've been looking at fall travel destinations and ideas for fall travel and things like that. Originally, I was thinking it would be good to go out to Palm Springs Leather, which is right around Halloween weekend. But after I looked at the prices, the hotel prices skyrocketed this year, and the costs, all of the costs associated with that, it almost costs as much to go to that as IML in Chicago. And that's just something we're doing. So my husband and I sort of looked at that and thought, nah, let's skip that this year. And that's Palm Springs Leather Pride that I'm speaking of. That's the one that's a week different from Palm Springs Pride, which we'll be talking about here in a couple of minutes. But now I'm looking forward to Christmas, which falls on a weekend loosely this year. So in the past, we've done a travel destination for Christmas. And right now I'm in the throes of sort of hunting around and spelunking on the internet, looking at airline prices, looking at hotel prices, looking at events, trying to find some kind of affordable, and I'm doing air quotes with my fingers, some kind of affordable Christmas destination where my husband and I can get away from the rat race here in town and go do Christmas someplace where it's just nice to be away. And it's fun to do that once in a while. Sometimes family that we have here in town, they go to another place for Christmas, and we like to do that ourselves sometimes. We've done it before. We've gone to Palm Springs. There's a big bear Christmas event that happens sometimes down there at CCBC. I'm looking into that to see if that's an option. I'm also looking into other things, but I'm also hit with that same wall I was hit with when it comes to Palm Springs Leather Pride. Oh my God, airline prices are through the roof right now. They're roughly almost twice what they were just a couple of years ago. And we know why. It's because everything's more expensive right now. But fuel costs are probably one of the big contributors to why airline tickets are so expensive right now. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. But I digress. If any of you out there have a good suggestion for a good opportunity to go spend Christmas someplace where we can sink our toes into the community, maybe participate in some kind of an event. We really, when we go and travel, we like to not just sit in our hotel room and watch TV. We like to be able to go there for a reason where something's happening and we can experience local culture. And it doesn't always have to be gay culture or leather culture. It can be anything that would be enriching, fun, and enjoyable. So if any of you out there have an idea where maybe you've done it before or you're planning on doing it this year, please do drop that in the comments, whether it's on social media or whether it's on our YouTube channel. I'd love to hear from you. I would really love to hear from you on that. And I'll finish up my check-in by sharing that I'm doing a lot of videotaping for my other channel, YouTube channel, which is Test Driven TV. I'm an automotive journalist, which is, I would say about 50% of my income, 50% of my career choice, as it were. It's just a busy time of year right now. I have a car every week that the manufacturers send me that I'm doing a review on. And what makes it extra fun and special right now is the fact that it's usually 100 to 110 degrees outside. So filming out in the desert where I go a lot of times to do our video shoots, well, honestly, it's just a shit show because when it gets really, really hot, the camera equipment doesn't necessarily always work right. They shut down because of the heat, or sometimes I get back to the office and look at the footage and things look weird. And so I have to be very careful about how I plan video shoots, which typically means early in the morning. Like right now, as I'm shooting this here in my studio, it is 105 degrees outside already, and it's only like 9:30 in the morning, and it's going to be 114 degrees today, so says the weather machine. So that's what I expect this weekend when I take the current car that I'm testing this week, which is a Ford Explorer Tremor, which is the off-road version of it, a very nice vehicle. Probably have a review on the Test Driven TV YouTube channel up sometime next week, but I did want to plug the channel and plug the fact that currently up are a number of new reviews, including a new Subaru Outback Wilderness, which is the off-road camping edition. And a lot of my gay friends were really fascinated and interested in this car when I had it. I took it on a camping trip a couple of weeks ago and did a camping review with it. We packed it full of all of our camping gear. And the test drive review covers what it's like driving in the mountains fully loaded, what the gas mileage was like, what it was like loading it and using it for a road trip, and that whole thing. So it really fits with the vehicle. And so if you're interested in that, the link is down in the show notes and you can check it out on our other YouTube channel. And so that's my check-in for today. So episode 69, everybody was telling me, oh, you have to do something special for episode 69. And I don't know how to really delve into 69 without being super salacious, right? Because, well, 69. Here are some things that I think of when I hear that number. It's actually a pretty significant number in my life, starting with the fact that I was born in 1969. 1969 is my birth year, and there were a lot of things in my life that number is associated with. And so that's the first thing. I love When I was a kid, I used to love big jet airliners, and the Boeing 747 was the big one. It was the jumbo jet that I used to just be completely enamored with and fascinated with. As it turns out, the Boeing 747, its maiden flight was February 9th, 1969, just about a week before my birthday. And so that's another little tidbit there for the number 69. I've also had a long history with the classic Ford Mustang. I just had a lot of Mustangs in my life. I used to be very involved in the classic Mustang hobby. That was earlier in my youth, and then a little bit later in my adulthood, I had modern Mustangs, a lot of them. I've probably had a dozen Mustangs in my entire life. So I'm very Mustang fluent, right? And 1969, in my opinion, is one of the best looking classic Mustangs ever. It was one of the last classic Mustangs that existed before the 70s just ruined design, not only for that car, but everything in the world. Everything in the world. Very few things in the 70s are good. Very few. So that's that. But getting a little bit more serious about the number 69, the yin and yang. The design of the yin and yang not only looks like 69, but represents a lot of spiritual and philosophical things that you hear if you search number 69 for numerology, you get a lot of the same things that yin and yang talks about. And that, of course, is the visual structure of the number reflects duality. It reflects perfect harmony of giving and receiving, mirroring the flow of the universe. And then that gets us to, let me repeat that. It represents the perfect harmony of giving and receiving, which gets us to, did you also know that 69 was a sexual position? Oh my heavens. Clutch your pearls out there. And I'm not going to describe it because, well, we all know, don't we? All right. So I like to keep our show positive. We talk about the bad news out there sometimes, but I want to talk about some good news because the city of Long Beach just announced in the last couple of weeks their LGBTQ cultural district that they're going to plan. And the story reads like this. The city of Long Beach in California just unveiled plans for the new LGBTQ plus culture district along its Broadway corridor, the long-established neighborhood in the city. The first phase of the project includes decorative and functional streetscape enhancements along Broadway between Hermosa and Junipero Avenues, an area known as the Strip, where many of the LGBTQ plus bars, clubs, and businesses currently exist. The Strip serves as an important community gathering space, connecting residents and visitors to the beach, Bixby Park, and it's the route of the annual Long Beach Pride Parade. The city's proposing decorative streetscape enhancements that aim to strengthen the identity of the corridor, improve the experience for residents and visitors, and commemorates the community's cultural legacy. Isn't that nice? Improvements include cross-street festoon lighting, a new Pride Plaza on the corner of East Broadway and Junipero Avenues, art murals, and new street trees. And one of the renderings that they put out also includes a big rainbow crosswalk. They might have to wait until after the Trump administration leaves to put that in, but that is part of the plan. As part of a separate project, the city of Long Beach is also exploring the creation of a memorial dedicated to those who lost their lives to HIV and AIDS, to serve as a place of remembrance, healing, education, and reflection. I think this is wonderful. There are a number of cities around the country that have embraced their neighborhoods and helped to foster and enhance the culture of those neighborhoods through city infrastructure. And this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it sort of comes on the heels of the news of West Hollywood, which has also been known as the Mecca in Southern California as far as the neighborhood goes. Well, in the last decade or so, it's actually been kind of falling apart and losing its luster. So Long Beach is coming along here and beefing up their side of town. So we'll see how that goes. I hope that the Sunset Strip, I hope that West Hollywood sees a comeback at some point as far as, reinvestment and the identity. What we're seeing here in Long Beach, I think, is good news. And I hope it continues not only there, but in other parts of the country, especially in the world that we live in today. Speaking of good news and pride and embracing the community, I want to talk about Palm Springs Pride, which is coming up in November, the 6th through the 8th, downtown Palm Springs. Now, I've got to tell you, this Pride event, for me, represents, I think, how these Pride events should be. They shut down an entire section of downtown, and it's like a big street party. They're not paying big money for a venue. And it's not to say that isn't happening there, but it's a carnival. It is a community event. The city gets behind it. It's just something that really represents the grassroots, community supported type of Pride event that some of the other Pride events around the country who haven't been doing are having trouble with because they depended on corporate sponsors. They depended on different types of venues that required big money to survive, where this Palm Springs event, it does involve big money, but the city's behind it, the community's behind it, and it's a nice vibe if you've ever been to it. That's Friday through Sunday, November 6th through the 8th, downtown Palm Springs in the Arenas district, a vibrant celebration nestled on Palm Canyon Drive, showcasing the spirit of Palm Springs. And the beauty of the fact that it's downtown in the district, you've got all of the shopping, all of the restaurants, all of the everything that's part of that district down there that's supporting the event. Free admission. That's the best part. My Pride event here in Phoenix last year that nearly failed miserably was approaching nearly $100 just to go. It was ridiculous. And when you got in, it was just a mop and broom show with window manufacturers and insurance companies with booths trying to sell their wares. It was a bunch of crap for a lot of money. Here we have a free event. You can just walk in and enjoy all of the community-oriented stuff. I'm pretty opinionated about Pride celebrations here in the last couple of years, and that's only because I've traveled, I've been to some other ones, and I've seen what a disaster show my local Pride has become, and that's why they're bankrupt this year, I think. Hopefully they're going to pick it up and change it for this year. They're working on that, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm going to support the events around the country that are doing it right, and this is one of them. Go to their website, pspride.org, check it out. They've got it going on. Yeah. The last thing is we're going to do our catch of the week, which is the thing that I find on social media that just sparks my fancy one way or the other. It's either good or it's bad. It's happy or it's angry. It's sigh, oh my God, really? Or, oh, that's so nice. And today's catch of the week is Borja Iglesias on receiving gay slurs. Now, this guy is a major star in Spain, part of the soccer or football, depending on what you call it. This is a post from Pink News on Instagram. Spanish pro footballer and LGBTQ plus ally Borja Iglesias delivered a powerful message about homophobia in football, saying the real issue isn't being targeted with anti-gay slurs, it's that LGBTQ plus players still don't feel safe enough to be themselves. Reflecting on the abuse he's received being an LGBTQ plus ally, he stated in a recent interview, "The first few times it affected me, I took it personally. After reflecting on it, I see things differently. Calling me a faggot, I don't consider that an insult. When a guy says that, I think I'd be happier being gay than being like him, with nothing better to do than insult people at the end of a match." When somebody calls him a faggot, even though he's reportedly straight, he doesn't take that as an insult. And that goes to a lot of us. I've been called that at various different times in my life, a lot when I was a kid. And many of you out there in the audience have heard that word more than once and not in a good way. Just like African American people in the N-word, within their community, it can sometimes become a word or a moniker of endearment between themselves. And I find that in the gay community, among gay men, we use that word faggot as a term of endearment amongst ourselves sometimes. It's kind of an edgy one, just like the N-word if you're in the African American community. It doesn't bother me anymore when I hear it. And I do hear it once in a while. I would say in the last 5 years, I've heard it as many times from, like, my husband and I walked out of the gym not that long ago, and some guy said under his breath, "faggots." And I didn't, but I was just about to turn around and go, "Thank you. You're very observant," because it doesn't hurt my feelings. It's what I am. I'm proud of it. It just makes me smile when I see somebody who's an ally who understands it. They get it. Borja Iglesias. Pretty handsome, too. I have to tell you, woof. All right. That is it for our episode today, my friends. A Touch of Gay Pod is our website. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We do not do the X. A Touch of Gay Pod is our handle. You can also find us on all of the major platforms for podcasts. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel right now, you can see all of the little colored chiclets on my graphic there. Our podcast drops every Sunday on all of the podcast platforms and usually on Saturday on YouTube, a little bit early, sometimes even Friday. If I'm not busy on Friday doing other things, I can sit down and do the entire edit. It's a lot of work. So sometimes it doesn't happen until the last minute. Nonetheless, I invite you to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. If you're watching, you can do that right there on the big round logo. You can see our latest video right above that on the big square. And if you're on the podcast platform, please do subscribe and leave us a good review. Either way, stay tuned.